Well, hello there. It's John back again with some more Lightroom demonstration videos. It's been a little while since I did my last one, but what I thought I would do this time is to show you the two key new features in Lightroom 6 to do with photography. And then I would show you the two new features that have been recently released in Lightroom CC, and Lightroom CC only, unfortunately, and not Lightroom 6.1. Although 6.1 was just released at the same time, it only includes bug fixes and performance enhancements for Lightroom 6. But anyway, let's have a little look at some of the new things that are in Lightroom 6 and obviously still in Lightroom 6.1. The two new features, main new features that Microsoft added, not Microsoft, my apologies, Adobe, were the ability to merge images to both create a panorama and to create an HDR type image. So let's look at two photographs that I've got here. So this is one photograph. This is a photograph I took in 2013 down in Dartmoor, and clearly, you can see that the sky is terribly overexposed. This is what the sky looked like, but of course, to get the sky right, I had to underexpose the foreground. Now, could I have done this with a graduated filter? Yes, I probably could. I'm not particularly a fan of using graduated filters because I find that they have an undesirable effect. But nevertheless, this is what I did. So I'm going to select both of those photos, and I'm going to right click on here and choose Photo Merge. Now this is a new feature in Lightroom 6. We never had the opportunity to merge two images before. And I'm going to use HDR in this one. Now HDR stands for High Dynamic Range, and if I select that, it takes a moment or two to look at those two, analyze those two photographs and work out the two areas which are correctly exposed. Now, one of the nice things about this, normally with HDR you would have taken generally 3 photos, maybe more. You'd have taken one overexposed, one normally exposed, and one underexposed, and then merged those together to do HDR. Well, with the algorithms that Adobe have put into Lightroom, they are recommending that you actually only need 2 images, the underexposed and the overexposed ones. And so this is what the photograph looks like. I'm just going to click on Auto Tone, which will get me a little bit more information in here. Now you can see what a good job it's done with actually merging this photograph. If I then click on Merge, and what it will do, so that was just a preview. Now what Merge is doing, it's doing this behind the scenes, because one of the things that Adobe put into Lightroom 6 was the ability to actually run things in the background while you're still editing photographs. So I could, for example, go into this photograph and do some development work on it, and in the meantime, up here if you look, we can see that we're still creating the HDR image. But I'm going to wait for that image to be created first, and then we'll have a better look and see what it looks like when it's been merged. Now I'm working from raw images here, so these are both raw, but you could do the same thing from JPEGs. And we should have the photo, and it looks like there it is. So let's go into the develop module, and we can see it's actually done a pretty good job at merging those 2 images. It's not quite how I'd like it because the sky is still too bright. So I'm just going to grab the graduated filter. Let's just pull this down a little bit, and I'm just going to drop the exposure just a tad, just to bring out a little more detail in the sky. That's not looking too bad actually, perhaps just a tad more. So we'll say done to that. Okay, let's just reset my tone, and then we'll just auto tone that. So the auto tone, that's what came in from the merge. I'm just going to boost a few things in here. So I just push clarity up and vibrance, just gives me a little bit more definition. Let's put some sharpening in on this. So I'll go back to my sharpening preset that I use. That's done that one. We'll go down to detail, and let's just mask out some of the sky details. And that's actually not looking too bad. Maybe what I'll do is I just want to brighten up the foreground, so I'm going to put another graduated filter, but this time I'm going to bring it up from the bottom, and I'm just going to boost the exposure. Now you're beginning to see why I'm not too keen on using graduated filters out in the field, because although the down here is quite nice, the hills are still just a bit on the dark side. And I think I'm just going to warm it up a little bit as well. A couple of ways we can do this. We can go down to camera calibration and then choose one of these settings. So landscape will warm it up a touch. Oh, I don't like that terribly well. Neutral, yeah, maybe. We'll stick with neutral perhaps, and we'll go into the custom white balance and see what these do. So let's go with daylight. It's a bit cold, cloudy, shade. And shade, yeah, shade is actually not too bad. Shade would be what it would be like at sunset. What I might do is just bring a tad more magenta into this as well, just to make it look a little bit more, perhaps not quite that much, something like that. And we'll just pull down clarity, because I don't like the halo which is appearing along the top of the hill. But basically what we've done is we've merged two photographs inside of Lightroom, one which is really badly overexposed for the sky but nicely exposed for the foreground, and the other one was nicely exposed for the sky but really underexposed in the foreground, and we've been able to merge those two images without leaving Lightroom. So that's the HDR merge. Now the other type of merge that we can do in here is a panorama. Now you would have seen the image I put up in some of the competitions of Dalt Quarry. Now Dalt Quarry was made up of 5 vertical portrait images. Now I've done some development work on these portrait images, just to improve the tones and so forth in here. Now we've got 5 of these photographs. Now it doesn't matter the order in which you take the photographs. I happen to have gone from right to left, but equally I could have gone from left to right. And in case you're wondering why I went right to left, it's simply because I'd been doing a whole series of these things. I was sort of going backwards and forwards. So I'm going to select the 5 images. We'll go back to grid view in the library module. With these 5 images selected, and we'll choose photo merge panorama. Now we can set the projection to spherical, cylindrical or perspective manually if we want, or we can let it choose it the projection Adobe thinks is going to be right for these images. We can change this as we go. So let's go on also select projection just to see what it does. I think that's made it just squashed it a little bit. So let's go back to cylindrical. I've selected auto crop in here. If I don't do auto crop, then it'll leave white borders. Now one of the things that the panorama merge option in Lightroom does not do, that you can get out of Photoshop, is the ability to fill in these white areas. In this particular case, while filling in the white areas might work down here, it's unlikely to work up here. You probably get some strange artifacts. So I'm going to click on auto crop and we'll click on merge. And now again, this is going to merge those photographs in the background, so we could indeed continue going on and developing, you know, other images. But I'm just going to let this run. I'm going to pause the video because it's going to take a while to actually do this, and I will catch up in a moment. Thank you. Okay, so it's finished processing these images to merge it. Here's the final image. Well, it's just reloading. This is quite a high resolution. Sorry about that. As you can see, it's 10,000 pixels wide by 5,000 pixels high almost. And the other thing to note is that it's a DNG file. So the panorama merging and indeed the HDR merging will work on raw images, and the output from those files will be another raw image, which gives us a huge amount of scope to develop in here. You know, we can change the white balance, which is hard to do with JPEGs. We can do all sorts of other stuff in here because it's a raw image. That's an important thing to know. We can crop this some more, so we could take that out to maybe through there, something like that. Perhaps we'll just bring that down a little bit, something like that perhaps. I think maybe I'm going to bring the side in as well. So let's just grab that in and we'll pull that in. It's still a very high resolution image. It's still nearly 9,000 pixels wide by 3,500 pixels high. Still very high. But yes, so we can do more work on this. We can, you know, change saturation. All of these things are still available to us because it's a raw image. And those are the two new features that or main new features that Adobe put into Lightroom 6. Now they also put in a few performance enhancements. It'll use your graphics card if it's capable. It's one of the things, so it's a bit faster. It'll now use more cores, so if you're exporting a lot of images, exporting was always quite slow, and although there were a couple of workarounds to actually make it appear faster, it was still quite a slow process. Well, it still is slow, but what it will do if you're exporting a lot of photographs for a slideshow or for, say, doing time lapse or something like that, they've made the exporting of those images basically 3 times faster. So that is quite a performance boon. And that's it really. That's really all I want to say about Lightroom 6.1. The two new features in there for photo merging, HDR and panorama are very welcome. And you know, and they're very welcome because they leave them as raw images. Now, one thing that would be fair to say is that the new merging features will work a lot of the time, but they're not 100%, and there are a couple of issues with them that Adobe haven't solved, such as doing the content aware fill on panoramic merging, and a couple of other things like that, which you may find work better in Photoshop or in some of the other panorama or HDR external tools that you could use. But nevertheless, you can do this within Lightroom now, and I think it's a very useful add-on and feature to have in there. If it doesn't work for you, you haven't lost anything, because you can still go back and use your existing tools. Anyway, that's really all I want to show you this time. In the next video, I'm going to show you the new features that Adobe have put into the latest version of Lightroom CC. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.